Hi. Today we're continuing our conversation about the Ten Commandments and talking about the Sixth Commandment. We'll remember that the first three commandments are our fellowship with God, and that the second tablet, 7 through 10, are about our relationship with each other. We saw in the first of those second 7 that the family is established as the foundation for society, as Jesus speaks to us children to honor our father and our mother. Secondly, we saw how life is foundational in society, and that God is the one who made us and gave us life, and so made life holy. The commandment today, our sixth commandment, simply says, "You shall not commit adultery." And on its surface, it is a commandment about human sexuality and how we are to exercise sexuality within our relationships. But I think it's a much deeper commandment than simply about physical behaviors. I think it's a commandment that really directs the bookends, we might say, the frame around the family, and informs us about the centrality again of the family and of life. Let's listen to Dr. Martin Luther's explanation of this commandment in his small catechism. He says that we should fear and love God. So again, we are beginning by understanding that the commandments are about fellowship with God, about how we fear and love God. And because of that, and because of what He has done for us in bringing us into this fellowship, we lead a chaste and pure life in word and deed. So we're talking about chastity and purity in both what we say and what we do. And then specifically, that husband and wife love and honor each other. So we are really talking about the relationship that we call marriage, and recognizing that this is a relationship that God established, that God gave us, and around which God gave very specific boundaries. So we're going to take this commandment and actually look at it in 4 different episodes, laying the foundations for a biblical marriage. We're going to start that by simply looking at the way that God created us. Going to Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, we read that God, after He said to Himself, "Let us create man in our image," did that. And it says that He did create us in His image, and that He created us male and female in His image. So we understand that the image of God is not about how we look, but it is about the character traits that God shared with us in His image. But what we want to focus on today is the fact that in this creation, He made us male and female. Jesus emphasized or re-emphasized this for us in a conversation that He was having with the religious leaders of Israel. They were trying to trap Him around the practice of divorce. And we read in Matthew 29 then His response to their question, and how He frames His answer with this same idea as its foundation. And so He said to them, "Have you not read," referring back to Genesis, "that He who created them from the beginning made them male and female?" So Jesus is taking us back to Genesis chapter 1, and using Genesis chapter 1 as the authority on which we are building the institution that we call marriage. That God designed this relationship first by creating us male and female. So let me try to illustrate, using some electrical cords, what that looks like for us, and see 3 things I think that the electrical cord can teach us about this piece of creation. Now, electricians, plumbers, others who need to connect things have copied God's perfect design. We remember that at the end of creation, God said that His creation was very good. And so certainly this design that God made, that He created us male and female, is a very good design. And we have copied that design in many ways in our physical lives and how we just live. And certainly electrical cables are one of those examples. So in an electrical cable we have what we call the male end and what we call the female end. And we'll notice simply that the structure of these two ends is copied from the man and the woman in how we are created physically. And that the purpose then is for these two to fit together perfectly. That what God did when He created us, male and female, was created complementary parts that fit together perfectly, that fit together physically, but also that fit together emotionally and spiritually. And as we go through these four foundations for a biblical understanding of marriage, we'll talk more about those. What we find, and the reason that God had to give us the commandment, is that in our broken nature we want to destroy this design that God has created. And one of the ways that we destroy this design is that we try or think that we can make these two fit together. Or another way, similarly but with the other ends of the cord, we can try to make these two fit together. Now I suppose in some artificial way we might hold those ends together and allow them to conduct electricity, but that's not how they're designed. And that's not how we are designed either. That God made us male and female, and that He intended that these two would fit together, and not that these two would fit together, or that these two would fit together. Also, as we look at these, we're going to notice that there is no confusion with these. It doesn't take much for us to look at these and realize this one fits with this one. That these two, if we try to put them together, there is no conducting of electricity between these two. If these two, we might be able to hold them together artificially, although it would be fairly dangerous for us physically to do that, and that's not the way these are designed. And so what we find is that this isn't confusing. We don't have to wonder, well, I wonder which pieces fit together, or the fact that this part is not confused about what its purpose is, and this part is not confused about what its purpose is. Neither of them are confused about their identities. That is, that when God created us, male and female, He built that sexually and by gender into our DNA. And so we are, from the moment of conception, either XX chromosomed or XY chromosomed, and that determines our sexuality and our gender. And so what we again realize is that in the brokenness of our sin, that we either want to deny this or we want to fight against it, which is the nature of our brokenness, is to fight against the design that God has given for us. So we will also notice, as we're looking at the fact that there is no confusion between these parts, is that they aren't identical either. You know, these two happen to choose same kind of chords, but two different colors. Same with this, same kind of chords, two different colors. That doesn't add to or make them confused at all. It just shows that they are different, and I suppose that each of these actually, based on their color, is going to be able to handle a different amount of energy load, and that we are very quick to stereotype what this is or what this is. And that there is certainly a great deal of variation within our personalities. That all men are not alike, that all women are not alike, that we have tendencies that we might label male or female that run a great spectrum, that it's perfectly okay. The general stereotype is that men are tough and strong and hard, and it's perfectly okay for men to be gentle, to be caretakers. On the other hand, the stereotype says that women are the caretakers, that the women are those that emote more expressively, and yet it's very acceptable for women to be strong. Why would we say that that's not okay? And that there isn't a confusion. There is certainly difference. There is the green and there is the orange, and that and yet they are both the same in their construction. So this then becomes the foundation on which we are going to, one of the foundations on which we are going to understand this commandment. That to begin with, in order for us to know what it means not to commit adultery, we need to understand that God created us in a very specific way to function in a particular way together, complementing each other. And that creation is, at its very core, male and female. So I encourage you and invite you to follow along the next few weeks as we continue to look at these foundations for this relationship that God gave us, the institution of marriage, and how within this institution we can learn to love the command not to commit adultery. Thank you for listening, and God bless you.